night you were unhinged. You were like some desperate, howling demon. You frightened me. Do it again.
Shh! It's the film flavors.
Cara mia, it's Chris.
I was going to say, oh shit, Chris, that's French, but it's not. Hey, everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And we're back with another deep dive episode. It's April, the time of the year we love to talk about horror comedies. And so we're bringing you not one, but two this month. And they're sort of in the same family.
Are they?
Yeah, I guess they're like closely related.
Well, assuming our listeners actually read what they clicked on, I'm going to say that they know it's the Addams Family.
That's right. And today we are talking about the original film.
Yes. Not Addams Family, the Addams Family.
The Addams Family.
Which is a 1991 American supernatural black comedy film based on the characters from the cartoon created by Charles Addams and the 1964 TV series produced by David Levy. It stars Anjelica Huston, Raul Julia, Christopher Lloyd, and Christina Ricci. The film focuses on a bizarre, macabre, aristocratic family who reconnect with who they believe to be their long-lost relative, who is actually the adopted son of a loan shark intending to swindle the Addams clan out of their wealth and vast fortune. The
film was directed by cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld in his directorial debut, and is noted for its troubled production history. The film went way over budget and was plagued with illness and an overall high stress level. The Scott Rudin-produced movie was written by Caroline Thompson of Tim Burton fame and Larry Wilson, who wrote and directed several episodes of Tales from the Crypt. The music was composed by Oscar-nominated Mark Shaman with an original song, The Addams Groove, created by MC Hammer.
Right.
Too legit to quit.
Okay, listeners. They're all together. Oogie, the Addams Family. Fuck it.
When we first met years ago, it was an evening much like this. Magic in the air. A boy.
A girl.
An open grave.
You were so beautiful, pale and mysterious. No one even looked at the corpse.
Wednesday, play with your food.
Is this made from real lemons? Yes. I'll buy a cup if you buy a box of my delicious Girl Scout cookies. Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
Thing, you're a handful. I've done this before.
This holiday season, they'll make you feel right at home.
Last night, you were like some desperate, howling demon. You frightened me. Do it again.
The Addams Family.
In an undisclosed city, the creepy and kooky Gomez and Morticia Addams live with their children Wednesday and Pugsley, alongside Grandma Addams, their butler Lurch, and disembodied hand Thing. The family is a little odd, sometimes to the chagrin of their neighbors. Gomez has long distressed over the absence of his brother Fester, who left the family on bad terms after an argument the two shared. Every year, the family holds a seance to attempt to contact Fester from beyond the grave. Gomez's attorney Tully is in a bit of a pickle with a loan shark, to whom he owes some serious money. He's been trying to steal some of the Addams' vast fortune to pay his debts, but cannot seem to get into their vault. He's accosted by said loan shark, Abigail Craven, and her son Gordon, when he notices that Gordon bears a striking resemblance to the missing Fester. A plan is concocted. Gordon will arrive at the Addams' house, pose as Fester, and steal all their money. His mother will play the part of a psychologist who rescued him. The plan is enacted that night at the yearly seance, and the Addamses welcome Gordon with open arms. But the imposters insist that this is only a trial basis, and he will leave after a week. Things don't go so well for Gordon during his first few days in the Addams household, as Wednesday suspects him immediately. Gomez begins to doubt Gordon as well, after he seems to not remember anything from their past. Gomez is assured by Abigail that his doubt stems only from his own guilt, and Gomez again welcomes Gordon back into the family and plans a huge ball to celebrate his return. Meanwhile, Gordon finds himself starting to accept the clan, especially the children, whom he bonds over with wounds, scabs, and blood. He begins to leave their scam by the wayside, but his mother continues to keep him in line. At the ball, the entire Addams clan and creepy friends are in attendance, including the conjoined Amore twins, who let it slip to Tully that Fester should be lead Addams now that he has returned, and entitled to the family fortune. Tully springs into action and convinces a local judge, who has often been plagued by the Addams' strange ways, to name Gordon executor to the estate, displacing Gomez and family. With the family out of the way, the trio of con artists begin to search for the fortune to no avail. Morticia, meanwhile, heads to the house to try to mend the broken brotherly relationship. Thing follows and sees her captured, but heads back to Gomez to alert him. A fight ensues when Gomez attempts to rescue Morticia, but Gordon saves the day by opening a book and unleashing a hurricane and blowing Tully and Abigail out of the house. A stray bolt of lightning strikes Gordon, curing his amnesia, bringing him to realize that he truly is Fester Addams. 7 months later, the family celebrates Halloween together and play a spirited game of Wake the Dead, joyous that the clan is whole again. Morticia and Gomez share a passionate kiss after she reveals that she is pregnant, and the Uki family will be growing once again.
Uki?
I mean, they're all together Uki.
I mean, it's true. The Addams Family was released on November 22nd, 1991, after a very troubled and costly production, which we'll discuss a little later. It opened alongside new releases like An American Tail 2, Five Goes West, and the Bette Midler film For the Boys. Other notable movies that did well in the box office that weekend included Cape Fear, Beauty and the Beast, Curly Sue, and Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs.
It would gross $24.2 million opening weekend, earning the number 1 spot. Ultimately, it would gross $113.5 million domestically, with a worldwide total of almost $200 million, cementing itself a bona fide hit, completely opposite of the expectations of the many studios involved. It would play for more than 58 weeks in its initial release.
The Addams Family holds 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, with an audience score of nearly matching 66%. The site's consensus reads, "The movie is peppered with numerous sight gags on one-liners, but the disjointed script doesn't cohere into a successful whole." Metacritic indicated mixed or average reviews, and audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film a grade of B.
That's not bad.
No.
Roger Ebert gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, saying it was mildly entertaining, but didn't add up to much. Variety wrote, "Despite inspired casting and nifty visual trappings, the eagerly awaited Addams Family figures a major disappointment. According to the BBC, it's the top-notch cast that elevates this film from flimsy to sheer delight."
And I would agree with that last statement, and maybe it's a little bit more in line with British humor, I'm not sure. As for accolades and legacy, it was nominated for Best Costume Design at the Academy Awards, although it lost to Bugsy.
At the Golden Globes, it was nominated for Best Actress Musical Comedy for Anjelica Huston, although she lost to Bette Midler in For the Boys.
And at the Saturn Awards, it was nominated for Best Fantasy Film, but it lost to Aladdin. Best Actor, Raul Julia, but lost to Gary Oldman for Dracula, naturally. And Best Performance by a Younger Actor, Christina Ricci. And Best Special Effects, but of course, Best Special Effects lost to Death Becomes Her. Now, did Christina Ricci win or lose?
She lost, but it didn't say who the winner was when I was looking for it.
Oh, okay.
So I have no idea who she lost to. Somebody. At the Horror Hall of Fame, which was an Oscar-style show hosted by Robert Englund from 1990 to 92, it won Best Horror Film of the Year.
There you go. I've never seen one. Have you seen the Horror Hall of Fame?
No, I didn't even know it existed, and now I feel like a really shitty horror fan.
No, there's the Horror Hall of Fame 1, 2, and 3, and they actually induct them. And so they had Psycho and a bunch of others the first year and then the second year. So it was really interesting to see what was included. So I included the link there. I might include that in the show notes as well if anyone's interested to see who was inducted during those 3 years.
I like how they call this the best horror film of the year, right? I don't know.
Well, it's a little strange that it won that when apparently, I don't know what their dates were, but apparently it was up against Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I don't know. I would need to look at the actual nominations for that, but it also had a presence at the Razzies.
That's right. The main theme, which was written and performed by MC Hammer, won a Razzie Award in the category of Worst Original Song.
Naturally, yeah.
I remember when I was a kid having that song on a single cassette, right? Single, right? Mm-hmm. I played it all the time. Although in 1991, I guess my musical tastes were questionable.
I don't remember this one. I remember the rap song for Addams Family Values, which was a play on Whoop, there it is. And it was Whoop, the Addams Family. There it is.
And see, and I've completely blocked that one out of my brain. So
Well, it's much catchier.
after this recording, I'll probably go and listen to them both on repeat, and we'll talk about next week, like which one is the actual best.
The Addams Family as a property has a long history in many forms, but most notably the film's sequel, Addams Family Values. And definitely stay tuned for more on that next week.
Would you like to know a little bit more about the Addams history as a property?
Sure.
Because I didn't really know everything, so I looked it up.
Well, I knew it was like a Sunday comic at first, right? Like back in the 30s or something.
Yes, so it started as a single panel comic strip, mostly in the New Yorker, right? So Charles Addams created this, and the first one was published in 1938, right? Although the family was sort of unnamed, it just showed them like being odd and ooky and kooky and like, you know, normal circumstances that, I don't know. I mean, everyone would find normal, right? And the comics actually ran until his death, until 1988. They were described as an odd, wealthy, aristocratic clan who delight in the macabre and are seemingly unaware or unconcerned that other people find them bizarre or frightening.
You know, I really would not have placed it in the late 30s. I would have placed it as kind of like, you know, counterculture comic in the 50s, you know, against the nuclear family, perfect family of the 50s or something. You know, it's interesting to me that it came out, you know, 12 years before that decade even started.
Right. I think that he, and I don't know this for sure, this is just my opinion, I think that he created this in response to a lot of families remaining wealthy throughout the Depression. Right. And so like it was like the anti-aristocratic family, or, you know, people found them to be odd and, I don't know, eccentric anyway. Right. And so he created a family that was odd and eccentric and who had a lot of money, you know. So
Okay.
The family didn't have names until they appeared on television. And Addams said of his creations when the television series was started, he said, Gomez and Pugsley are enthusiastic. Morticia is even in disposition, muted, witty, sometimes deadly. Grandma Frump, which I didn't know was her name, is foolishly good-natured. Wednesday is her mother's daughter. A closely knit family, the real head being Morticia, although each of the others is a definite character, except for Grandma, who is easily led. Many of the troubles they have as a family are due to Grandma's fumbling, weak character. The house is a wreck, of course, but this is a house-proud family just the same, and every trap door is in good repair. Money is no problem. So, the TV series premiered in 1964, and it ran for 64 episodes over 2 years' time, and later found a home and a following in syndication, right? So I remember watching The Addams Family a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, although that was one of the things that we were actually kind of concerned about when they were going to make this movie, was they weren't sure that it was syndicated quite as much as other shows were of the time, specifically in comparison to the Munsters.
Yeah, you know, and I watched the Munsters a lot as a kid too, right? And so, but I think that I liked the Munsters more when I was younger, and it wasn't until I became a teenager that I really appreciated the Addams Family. Because, like you said, even the TV show is very dry, but it starred like the incomparable John Astin as Gomez Addams, and he was just fantastic in that show. Yeah. And so, aside from that, after that show ended, there was a crossover episode of the new Scooby-Doo movies that they were in, and it sort of brought around this like Addams Family renaissance. There was a 16-episode animated series that premiered in 1973. There was another 21-episode animated series in 1992 after the movie. So lots of like cartoons, right?
I remember seeing that.
Yeah. So the two movies that we're talking about for sure. But other than that, there was a new Addams Family, which was a Canadian show that ran for 65 episodes in 1998 into 1999. There was a 2019 animated movie that came out.
Well, wait a second.
To that.
Because I think that Canadian one, or like the show that went from, or was it? No, it was Addams Family Reunion, right? With Tim Curry.
Yeah, and Daryl Hannah, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember if that was like direct-to-video or maybe a TV movie.
It was like a TV movie or direct-to-video.
Right. The animated movie didn't perform as well at the box office as people thought it would. I thought it looked cute. I didn't watch it. My husband has.
Me either. And I didn't like the trailer. It didn't feel right to me. Because I grew up with these movies that we're covering and deep diving into, but apparently did well enough because they're making a sequel.
That's right. Sequel's coming out fairly soon. And a musical version came out, and I love the soundtrack to that. I think it's really good. It stars Nathan Lane and Bebe Neuwirth, and it's just delightful.
Interesting. So. Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, like, I think it's safe to say that the Addams Family is, you know, they've cemented themselves into pop culture. And Time Magazine even compared them. They said the relevance and the cultural reach of this family is on par with the Kennedys and the Roosevelts.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know.
It's American royalty.
I mean, obviously, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that the Addams Family has that kind of cultural reach like the Kennedys and the Roosevelts?
Sure. In 2020. Yeah, sure. Why not? Maybe not in 1960.
I don't know. I mean, so like you said, we grew up watching these movies, and I wonder if kids today like just know the Addams Family like we did when we were younger, right?
I don't know. Probably not.
So I'm gonna have to start polling my nieces and nephews, see what they know about it.
Yeah. Tape their eyes open to watch the Addams Family values, at least. Well, how long are we not going to be talking about the Barry Sonnenfeld in the room?
We might as well start talking about him now. I think we've ignored him for far too long.
Yeah, so this guy was originally a cinematographer, right? And most notably for the Coen brothers, right? Who did movies like Fargo, Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men, before he directed The Addams Family as his directorial debut, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, afterwards, he made the sequel, Addams Family Values, along with like movies like Get Shorty, the entire Men in Black series, Wild Wild West, and RV, which I feel like is incredibly underrated and stars Robin Williams, Jeff Daniels, Cheryl Hines, and Kristen Chenoweth. I remember watching that movie and just it being so hilarious.
I don't think I've seen this movie, but I love Kristen Chenoweth.
You need to see RV. It's hilarious.
Great. Okay, I will add that to the list for sure.
And more recently, he has actually been directing the series of Unfortunate Events on Netflix, which I think has been canceled or has ended with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, possibly. I've never seen that either. Rob has watched it, so I mean, like I think he liked it a lot.
Anyway, so coming out in 2021 or 2022 is something called Schmigadoon, and it's an upcoming American musical comedy series starring Cecily Strong and Keegan-Michael Key from Saturday Night Live.
Schmigadoon?
Yeah. So well, I love Cecily Strong.
And I like Keegan Mike and Key a lot too. So I mean, I'll probably watch that. And musical comedy, yeah, I'm on board. I think that Barry Sonnenfeld makes really good like fantasy comedies, right? Like he's good at it. Like the first couple Men in Black movies were really something special. Like I enjoyed it and I laughed a lot.
Sure.
I'm not quite sure I can say the same about Wild Wild West, but yeah.
No, but the problems with Wild Wild West are not the direction. As a famous YouTube video will show you, with Kevin Smith talking about how he was supposed to direct it and how he escaped a batshit producer from essentially just like lording over the whole thing, and all his ideas for a Superman movie turned into Wild Wild West.
That's right. I remember us having a conversation about this before.
Yeah. Anyway, so you should look that up if you're interested. But what do you feel like about Barry Sonnenfeld? I'm not like huge on his oeuvre. Like I've never seen Get Shorty. I've seen like the first few Men in Black. Wasn't a huge fan of Wild West. And of course, I loved RV. Obviously, he has a huge presence in cinema, specifically like comedies or comedies twinged with other genres. And of course, he's put his stamp on like the early Coen brothers films, like Raising Arizona and things like that.
I didn't even know that he was a cinematographer first. Like I really just thought he was a director. I mean, this is a name that I know, right, from movies, and his movies have made a shit ton of money, right? Yeah. So obviously, like you hear his name thrown around. I just know that it's oftentimes like you said, like genre dabbled, right? So everything that he makes is not just a full-on comedy. There's little touches of horror or like supernatural stuff thrown in there, or science fiction, or westerns, or in the case of Get Shorty, like, crime, right? Mm-hmm. Get Shorty, I think, is a really fun movie as well. So, okay. I mean, I like his work. Like, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not going to just run around like singing the praises of Barry Sonnenfeld all the time, but the movies that I have seen, I mostly like. And I think that he's earned a spot, at least for appreciation for his work.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about the cast a little bit?
Oh my God, yes. Because I think that's the best part of this movie.
Yeah, they really, really did a great job with casting, starting with Anjelica Huston as Morticia Addams.
The Golden Globe nominated Anjelica Huston.
Yeah. And bless her soul, because a little bit later I'm gonna talk about how much work she had to do in this role.
Oh God, really?
Oh yeah.
Fun facts? I think that she is just amazing in this movie. Like I think she really like carries it. Well, she and Christina Ricci, I think, really carry this movie.
Well, I don't know, because Christina Ricci is excellent in this movie, but she's only like a hint of what's to come in Addams Family Values, right? Some genius, I forgot the writer for the second one. The writer for the second one actually did a pass on this one, right? But he was obviously smart enough to recognize the genius that is Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams and really make a full half of the next movie about her, essentially, right? For this one, it really does a good job of, I would say, putting like the heart and soul of this movie into Anjelica Huston as Morticia Addams and Raul Julia as Gomez Addams, and them as a couple and as relationship goals.
Yes. I do believe that when we counted down our top 10 horror couples, that they were toward the top.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were number 2.
Yeah, something like that. They were real high up there.
Yeah, and they really are. I mean, like, these two actors are just fantastic in these roles. I think Anjelica Huston, like, there's something about the way they light her face or the makeup, right? She just, like, she's so captivating.
Oh, there's something about it.
Great. But and Raul Julia is like the perfect foible to her. Like, he's so crazy in this movie. Like, the character is just nuts and all over the place. And I think that, you know, Anjelica Huston does a really good job of sort of like staying, you know, in the matriarch role and also the wife role, but she's like behind the scenes, just making sure that everything sort of works out for everybody in the family. It's good.
So let's move on to Christopher Lloyd, of all people, as Uncle Fester Addams, or Gordon Craven, depending on who you believe.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I was writing the synopsis, I was just like, do I call him Fester? Do I call him Gordon? At one point when I was writing it, I called him Gordon Fester, and I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. So I just like followed the story, right? So, but I think, I don't know. I mean, I think that Christopher Lloyd does a good job, especially when he's being Fester, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely, I can't imagine really anyone else, especially back then. But I think it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that the Doc from Back to the Future was the same actor as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family movies. And anyway, I thought, and of course also the main Klingon bad guy in Star Trek 3 or something.
What?
Yeah, he's like a main bad guy in one of the Star Trek movies. So he was all over the 80s and 90s, really.
Well, I mean, by the time that Addams Family came out, I already loved Christopher Lloyd because he played Professor Plum in Clue.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I was obsessed with that movie, and still am technically. So, yeah. So I was already a big fan of Christopher Lloyd. It was a name that I recognized at 11 when this movie came out. So yeah, he does a good job. I will say though that I watched the Addams Family TV show, before I saw the movie. And because I used to stay up late and watch Nick at Night and shit like that. And the character of Fester in the TV show is nothing like the character of Fester in the movies, right?
And of course, that was John Astin, father of Sean Astin, who was in The Goonies and later Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And Rudy, if you're a football fan.
Rudy. I've only seen that movie one time.
Great music by Jerry Goldsmith.
We've already mentioned Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams, but I think it bears repeating that she is just marvelous as Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, she's iconic, really. I mean, obviously both Morticia and Wednesday are iconic in this film and the next. And I will never forgive these studios for not making some sort of, adult Wednesday series with Christina Ricci, and I hope it still happens. Of course, she's like basically in her mid-40s at this point. But I still think that I thought that they were going to restart Addams Family with Wednesday as the new Morticia, you know what I mean? And have a new generation. And that would be amazing if it was Christina Ricci.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that gets thrown around there a lot, right? And I think that Christina Ricci is so good in this particular role that she can sort of slip into it whenever she wants to. At least I believe that to be true, right? But as far as I know, the new Addams Family that's coming to Netflix will just be a full-on reboot.
That sucks, and if it doesn't suck, I'm hoping that it's as good and as clever, as the casting here and as the writing here. And it'll be fun to see, and I'll check it out. But there's just nothing like Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams.
Agreed.
It's one of those roles, that's just someone who's like born to play.
Yeah, and she's been in a lot of things like since then, right? Oh, yeah. But I think when people think of Christina Ricci, they're going to say Wednesday Addams, like forever, right?
Yeah.
So when you say iconic, it really is. I mean, even Anjelica Huston has had a lot of roles, right?
Sure.
But I think that most people, when they think of Anjelica Huston, now they think of Morticia Addams.
Yeah, so I would say with basically everyone in this movie, right down to Carl Strucken, except for Christopher Lloyd.
Right.
Who will always be Doc, the Doc or whatever, Doc Brown from...
Doc Brown, yeah.
From Back to the Future series.
But rounding out our Addams cast, we have Jimmy Workman, who plays Pugsley Addams.
Mm-hmm.
And Judith Malina, who plays Grandma or Mama, right, as she's called, right?
Grandma.
Sometimes. And Carl Strugen, like you said, as Lurch.
Right.
And we've talked about him on the podcast before.
Oh, he's been in all kinds of things, and we all love him. He's been in Dr. Sleep, and of course he was in both Addams Family movies. He was on Star Trek, and he's been on Twin Peaks. He's been in a lot.
Yeah, and it's hard not to like notice him, right? Because he's a big man. He was at that convention that we were at a couple years ago here in Dallas, right? And I mean, we probably should have gone over to that table and got his autograph. I don't know what the hell we were thinking. I think we were just probably ready to leave.
Yeah, I think we were, and he had like one person there, I think, where he was leaving, because I think we both were interested, but I think they closed his line. Mm-hmm. But
we also have Christopher Hart's hand as Thing.
And he has a whole story. He's a magician, and he has a whole story about how he would do different things. Like he had to play like a chess game or something with Gomez, Raul Julia's character, and he would have to be under the table and know exactly you'd be looking at a monitor under the table to know exactly where to put down the chess things. And if he got something wrong, they'd have to redo the whole thing, and he had to do everything blind, Wow. And he was on set, and he did a lot of that stuff on set. And was below the tables and, doing all the sign language and everything else. But he also played a hand in like an Angel episode and a couple other things he's been a hand model for. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about Thing, what do you think about the special effects involving that particular character?
I thought it looks incredibly good today. There's a little bit of like blue screen fuzz that I could see like in some earlier scenes, but for the most part, it looks photoreal all the time.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. There was only one moment where he was like sort of hopping through the swamp from lily pad to lily pad that looked a little like fakeish.
Stop motion.
But for the rest of the movie, I was just like, good Lord, this holds up. I was just like, it looked amazing.
Yes, it really does hold up. And the next one will be even better.
So I can't imagine how my 11-year-old brain was thinking when I was watching this in the theater. I must have been like, my Lord, it looks real, right? Mm-hmm. That's a good year though for like special effects. If we had this and like Death Becomes Her, it's pretty fucking amazing. 1991.
Yeah.
So,
agree.
Good for you.
So finally, we have rounding out our Addams cast. We have John Franklin as Cousin It. And then for our normie cast, we have Elizabeth Wilson as Abigail Craven, or Dr. Greta Pinderschloss. I don't know what Pinder means in German, but Schloss means castle. So I'm not sure.
I don't speak any German, so I don't know. I can't speak German, but I will if you like. I thought she did a really good job in this movie too. Like I totally forgot about the psychologist part where she has to like bring on that accent. And I was cracking up when she first started talking. I was just like, and really that whole speech about Gomez's like mental block, right? I was like, this is really funny. So she's a good little comedic actress.
So Pender is like a pound keeper, pound maker, like someone who impounds, right? And so she's a shark, right? So she's a loan shark. Mm-hmm. So it basically makes sense that she'd be Pinderschloss.
What does Greta mean?
I don't know. It's the name.
It also has Dan Hedaya. How do you say his name? That's how I've always said it.
Hedaya.
Okay. Yeah, I've never really known how to say that, although I've always known him as Cher's father from Clueless. So.
Yeah, and he was also in First Wives Club, which...
That's right.
Yeah, this at least the same composer did the music for that. And he was also in Alien Resurrection, which we'll be covering next year.
Well, this year, technically, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. Damn it. This year.
I'm looking forward to that too, because I forgot he was in that movie. My Lord, he's been in a lot of things, but he's also like effortlessly funny, right? And it's just the way he delivers things. Also in kind of that deadpan manner, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. Dana Ivey plays Margaret Alford, Tully's wife.
What else has she been in? She has such an iconic look.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching this last night. I was just like, oh, her, like I know I've seen her in things other than the Addams Family and Addams Family Values, but I cannot like put my finger on it. But she has like just a look about her that you would remember, Yeah, but she does. I mean, she looks like somebody that you'd remember. And she has sort of a pivotal part to this movie too, which I didn't put in the synopsis, but she eventually joins the Addams Family clan by marrying Cousin It.
Yeah, which no one saw coming.
Way out of left field.
Yeah, we also have their judge neighbor, Paul Benedict. And then I do really want to say the last thing is that I want to say like the very smallest bit talking part in this whole movie is pretty much Mercedes McNabb as the Girl Scout, right? Who ends up in the next movie playing Amanda Buckman in Addams Family Values.
And wasn't she also Harmony in
Buffy
the Vampire Slayer?
Buffy the Angel, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the line that I laughed at the hardest watching this movie this time. And I knew that it was coming, but still, it just makes me laugh every time. Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
Because they linger on her face after they say that. Yeah. She's just like stares at them like she's like having this like weird mental battle with them, and then she just walks away.
But she does have a much bigger, meatier role in Addams Family Values.
And thank God. So. And I really hope that actress comes back for any kind of like adult Wednesday show that we might get.
You know, we should just
end up like
let's just do it.
Just Next Door Neighbors or something.
Oh my God, that'd be so good.
No. So anyway, let's talk about some of our favorite moments.
Okay, so I really like the intro to this movie where they have a Christmas caroler standing outside, right? And I thought last night when I was watching it, I was like, I didn't realize this was a Christmas horror movie too.
It's not. It's just that this movie is made up of so many goddamn vignettes that it could be anytime, anywhere, any amount of time could have passed in between any given scene, you know? So I don't know. Let's just take it as is. It's the carolers, and it's the reveal of the Addams Family on the roof about to pour apparently tar down on the Christmas carolers, and that's our intro.
I totally forgot how this movie started, and I was just like, okay. And then when it showed them, I was like, wow. I was like, these people, I mean, they're supposed to be delightfully ooky, right? But I mean, that's kind of mean. But I mean, maybe they thought they would enjoy it.
But then we transition. I love that they're on the roof because we transition into that amazing cuckoo clock of their mansion where Gomez and Morticia come out of the front like cuckoos. And then like Gomez is like kissing her boobs, like repetitively as part of cuckoo.
And the rest of the family shows up like in different windows and things. Yeah.
That's really like Pugsley is hanging Wednesday, like repetitively with a rope, and the like Carl Strucken's character or whatever is like opening the door and sweeping the front door over and over. It's
I wonder if that actually exists.
Yeah, I want it. I want to like.
I know.
Yeah. And,
I'm sure someone paid a lot of money for it.
And then we get a reveal of Thing, which I can't imagine wasn't in the trailer. But even then, it kind of blew my kid mind because it looked so real. And to this day, it looks so real.
Yes, it really does. You know, and so like as a kid watching the Addams Family on TV, Thing is like relegated to a box that he pops up out of, right? And the box is all over the house. So you know he's moving or something, but you only ever see him pop up out of that and close the door behind him. But immediately in this movie, he's running around everywhere. And it was just amazing to look at.
Yeah, it really was.
But then we sort of like get our main intro into Morticia and Gomez when he wakes her up in the morning. Right?
Yeah, and it's really, I feel like a good half of this movie is kind of introducing us to the world of the Addams and all these different characters in different situations. And it's almost like just a giant setup for the next movie, you know, or really it feels like a big setup for a franchise. As it should have been, you know, but we really do, like you just said, get introduced to Morticia and Gomez, you know, with the way they have their little like verbal repartee going on. And he goes, you know, unhappy, darling. And she says, oh, yes, completely. You know, and like she's like complaining that he was like a demon that last night and that he frightened her and he hurt her. And will he do it again? You know, shit like that. And it's so off, you know, it's just wonderful. It's like so delightful just to every scene with them together is just delightful.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with you. I just, the way that the two actors like play off each other is great. I think that their lines together are some of the best in the movie. And like you say, it really does like sort of set it up for what should have been like a huge franchise. I think that these two like have really good chemistry, and it's fun to watch them, right? Just talk to each other and, you know, play off that sort of like loving relationship that they have.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we get introduced more into Gomez outside of his relationship with Morticia and how playful and weird he is when our favorite lawyer arrives. And, you know, it kind of kicks off the plot with the whole like money subplot, I guess. Well, the main plot, I guess, the catalyst for, you know, Gomez to return, right, is like this lawyer needing money, him having to interact with his loan sharks, and the whole like money grubbing, steal money from the Addams scheme.
Right. And so he's listening to him go into that vault, right? And he's saying things like Bat Kitty and whatever, you know, I mean, like we're led to believe that it like this thing's like well protected.
Yeah.
Right. And so, it really does like start the entire like plot of the movie. So, and we never get to see Kitty in that.
Kitty's the original pet, I believe, even from the comics. It's his pet lion.
Yeah, so I think it was Morticia's pet or something like that. They also had a pet in the comic. Pugsley had a pet octopus called Aristotle.
Yeah. And there's a little octopus on one of their bed stands. I think it's one of the kids' beds or something. And that goddamn finger trap.
Oh, Lord, I know. It just kept popping up. And it was the same woman getting stuck in it, really, right? So.
Well, it's just hilarious because like it's like yet another prop that I want from this film. I want that cuckoo clock. I want that finger trap. And then I also want a lot of like the graves I can pull out for Halloween. you know?
Oh my God, I know. Those graves are really amazing. Just the way that, I mean, it seemed like they were so like easily made or whatever, but I kind of like that style. So it's neat.
Yeah.
Super neat.
That look very cartoony, almost like original, like 3D models or something of like the original cartoons from the, you know, from that you might see in the original like, comic or something.
Mm-hmm. And I like the idea of like a back history or like Addams from the past, right? So
well, it's just hilarious because it's like everything in their life is like gothic, except everything retro in their life is like almost cartoony, right? So you expect some sort of like gothic graveyard, but no, this is all like the Fisher Price graveyard or something.
Like Weeble Wobble's graveyard.
Yeah.
I love it.
And this was our aunt, Hungry Hippo, you know? So like,
I just like some of those backstories though. Like Morticia really does like give a little snippet for each one, and it's amazing.
yeah.
So
Then we get, of course, we do meet the Cravens, right? And Fester and the whole, the plot in this movie is like not the best part of it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really matter. It's all about the introduction to the characters and being like exposed to the Addams family and their lifestyle really more than anything happening in the plot. Unlike the sequel, I would say, where the plot actually matters more.
yeah, I kind of feel like they were trying to introduce the family because they knew they were going to have more movies, right? Or at least they hoped so. And, you know, they're like, well, what can we possibly do to introduce these people? And so they have like a very thin plot or whatever. They just enough to like push the story along. But like you said earlier, it really is just a series of incidents that these family are doing, right? Just to make us laugh and to get us, you know, to know who these characters are.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments after they were introduced to, or reintroduced to Fester, I guess, is, you know, Morticia going through his luggage, helping him unpack, you know, and seeing all the weapons and everything else. And he's like mortified that she has like caught him or whatever. And then she like looks at the poison, turns around and she goes, Fester, as if we'd run out. You know?
Arsenic, as if we'd run out. That's funny.
They continue to do this fish out of water thing with Fester as he's kind of getting into the groove with the family. They have breakfast the next morning. And one of the scenes where I was like, what? Was apparently like Pugsley comes in late with a stop sign. Then you hear like the hush falls over to the table as Gomez is like, be quiet, everyone. And they hear this horrible traffic accident outside because he took down the stop sign. I was like, Jesus Christ.
And isn't he like, bravo, Pugsley?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they are just a twinge mean-spirited, right? Tar on carolers, like horrific traffic accidents. And later on, like in their room or his room, you see like a whole like barrage of stop signs that he's stolen. So apparently
I missed
it's
that.
his fucking hobby.
It's funny because I think that inspired my sister and me to do some weird things in our street in front of our house. Like we would put stuffed animals out in the middle of the road. And people would stop. And one time we heard this woman just like scream, like had no inner monologue. And she got out of her car in the middle of the road and like screamed and says, no, a kitty.
Oh my God.
And she's like, oh, it's a stuffed animal. And then put it in our mailbox and drove on. I was like, even as a kid, I was like, what is happening?
That's a wonderful hobby.
Yeah.
I did not know that about you or your sister. So.
Oh yeah, no. When we would chalk on the ground, we would write with chalk on the ground, like warning, dead cat, and stuff like that, like 20 yards out. Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch the Addams Family a little too often.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. We were the template, honestly.
I mean, but Wednesday and Pugsley play a lot of like crazy games together too, right? Like, is there a god? So.
What's this game called? It's called Is There a God? The delivery, though.
Again, just super iconic and fun.
Yeah, and speaking of them, like one of the ways that Fester, starts kind of integrating with the family is to help them out with the school play or the talent show or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Because they were learning Shakespeare, right?
Something.
And he was like abhorred at the way that Pugsley was killing Wednesday, and he's like, "No, let me show you." So.
Well, I love that scene so much because it has just like they're cutting off each other's limbs in front of this whole audience of parents, and then they have the fake blood spraying out. Like that whole stage was like a flood of fake blood by the time they were finished, and the whole like first 5 rows will get wet like SeaWorld. You know, they were all just drenched with blood, and it was an amazing sequence, especially because of the contrast of what had happened before with all the little kids coming out and singing before them, and the Addams just looking like they were being annoyed to death by like the worst thing in the world, you know?
Yeah, the like choir of children singing The King and I, right? Yeah. Oh my God. It's so funny. Can you imagine like how much these kids playing these characters enjoyed that scene? Like as kid actors, like just flinging blood on everybody. And I mean, they had to have enjoyed the shit out of it. So at least I hope so.
Getting to know you. Getting to know your entrails.
Which is what this movie is. And then finally we come to my favorite part in the movie, and that's the party scene.
Really? Why is that your favorite part?
Just because, I mean, I love the original Addams Family, but like I said earlier, I want to know a lot of backstory. I want more Addams characters, and we have just so many like crazy characters and things going on in this party, and it's just so fucking enjoyable to me. I just love it, love it.
Yeah, I really liked the introduction of like Cousin It and a bunch of the other characters, and there's a lot of interesting things going on. Like Wednesday finds out, you know, the plot and has to escape into a mausoleum and everything else. But it's at this party really that they're double crossed, right? And so they go out looking for Wednesday after the party's over, and they come out and they come back and realize that they've been locked out of their home because Fester was finally convinced by his, you know, lying fake mother that, you know, she was his real family, and that, you know, he was now accepted as the lead Addams, as the older brother, right? And that he could take over. And so they even went to the judge, which of course ended up being their neighbor who hated them. Really, like, all of this is just, it really felt kind of hollow to try and get the Addams out of the house and into the real world, right? So that we could have some sort of like vignette, you know, and montage of them all like working, you know, in the real world. All of a sudden Thing has a job as a mail boy, you know, and he's throwing mail at people in an office setting. They all get jobs, right? And obviously we get that one scene that we love so much with Wednesday and Pugsley where they're talking about the Girl Scout cookies. Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
Right, selling their lemonade. Don't they have like a whole bunch of poisons on that stand too?
Like straight up, right? Gomez is an unemployed loser, calling into Sally Jessica Raphael. I don't know who out there remembers her. I do.
I think my husband does for sure, because we were watching this and he was just like, when was this movie made? And I was like, 1991. And it was right after that Sally Jessica Raphael thing. And I thought he was going to bring her up, and he was like, he's eating from a really old Fritos bag. And I was like, you remember what Fritos looked like in 1991? I was just like, good Lord.
Oh, I didn't notice that, but I did remember Sally Jessica Raphael, and I remember watching that as a kid and thinking, oh, wow, I had completely forgotten she existed.
Yeah, I mean, all I remember are the glasses, right?
So while he's calling into Sally Jessica Raphael, apparently Morticia is now a kindergarten teacher. So you have to assume that this has been weeks or months, right? I mean, like, it's not day one they're all doing this stuff. But she tells them the story she tells these poor little kindergarten children the story of Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, but from a really odd vantage point, like she's talking about how terrible it is for the witch, right?
Now, children, what do you think burning to death feels like?
All the fucking kids start crying. Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, that's why I can't be a teacher.
Why do you think burning to death? What do you think burning to death? How do you think that witch felt? How do you think burning to death feels like?
They push that innocent witch into the oven. So, but all this sort of like leads to the end of the movie, right? So like Morticia goes and she's trying to like reconnect the family or give some impassioned plea, but she's taken hostage by, you know, the con artists in their house.
So that about wraps up our film. Because like really, well, like that was the whole point, like to introduce us to the Addams, and then they all have like their like moments in, you know, real life, and then they kind of find a way to get back. So essentially Morticia, you know, sneaks out and sparks this whole series of events where apparently, you know, Gomez and basically everyone else comes back to save her, you know, whatever. That was kind of cool, but whatever. Anyway, they get blown out of the bad guys, kind of like the lawyer and his fake mom get blown out of the window. They land on those empty graves that Wednesday and Pugsley have just like built. And yeah, I think Pugsley's like, are they dead? And Wednesday goes, does it matter? And then they bury them.
Yeah, wraps it up very neatly. But, you know, Fester has regained his memory, too. And so he realizes that he really is Fester Addams, and he joins the family. And we get that nice little Halloween closing where we see that Margaret has buried Cousin It, like we talked about earlier, and they go play Wake the Dead. And
so, and my understanding of this is Wake the Dead is like to get every shovel you own and to go out and basically unbury everyone. The dead. Yeah. Just look at them, apparently.
Yeah, because, you know, Wednesday and Pugsley are sort of like banging on the tombstones. So like, wake up, Aunt Ophelia or whoever. And Fester's like, no, children, dig. So,
This one was decapitated. Look at her. And they like scream for joy.
Yeah, and they run over. Yeah. So, I mean, like the family is like joyous and happy and together. And, we have Gomez and Morticia sharing the last kiss of the movie after she holds up that fucking four-legged sweater or whatever the fuck she's knitting.
Yeah, it was like an octopus legs or something with it.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, a bundle of joy. But yeah, I mean, enjoyable. It's an enjoyable movie with lots of really fun one-liners like, Rotten Tomatoes said. So
There you go. More perfected in the next film.
It's true. Very accurate. Yeah. So I know we talked about earlier that this movie was sort of plagued by production troubles, right? And there's really sort of a storied history behind that, right? And all of it started with the rights to the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's created by one man. Another man, made the TV series, and it just created some sort of like legal nightmare for, getting this movie off the ground. So the idea was pitched to 20th Century Fox to adapt the Addams Family cartoons, and the studio thought it would be a really good idea. But Orion Pictures would not sell the property to them. So, especially since they were already planning a reboot of the old TV series. But Charles Addams' widow sold the remaining rights to them, and the movie got greenlit, and 20th Century Fox was able to start.
Yeah, do you remember that the first credit was like special thanks to like Lady Clarence or something or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her. Right, so she remarried a couple times or whatever, and her final name was like Clarence or Clarence or one of those, Clarendon, and whatever it says at the end there is actually thinking the widow of Charles Addams.
I did not know that. I thought it was just somebody random that the director wanted to thank or something like that. In fact, I didn't know that this movie had sort of a troubled past until I was doing research.
No.
So
well, first things first. When they finally were able to like greenlight the project, right? They were trying to find a director. They wanted to choose Tim Burton. So that was her first choice, but he was busy making Batman Returns by then.
Yeah, and thank God, because that's a really good movie too. But I mean, if I were in the producer's shoes, I would also probably go for Tim Burton. It seems like something right up his alley.
It seems like they were trying to go for like a Beetlejuice vibe here, right? And they did
exactly.
And so of course they wanted Tim Burton.
He's going to have his hand on it now anyway, thanks to Netflix. Yeah. So he'll get his shot.
He will.
But
in the last 3 months of production, director of photography Owen Roisman quit and was replaced by Gail Tattersall. And filming resumed, but within weeks, Tattersall was rushed to the hospital, halting production again, while Sonnenfeld took over for cinematography while simultaneously directing the film.
Well, thank God he had that fucking past experience then. I mean, otherwise this movie would have just gone on forever.
But I can imagine that happening. Like if you're a cinematographer and then you're a director and then you hire a cinematographer and they're not doing what you want. Like you're smart enough to know what can and can't be done and what should or should not be done. And so if you're getting a new lip, from someone like you're, obviously that person quit, so we'll see. But
if you are getting lip, it's easy to say, get off my set or whatever. Like, I'll just do this myself.
Exactly. You think you can do it better?
I have filmed. I've worked with the Coens.
Before they were the Coens.
Yeah. Further delays occurred when a blood vessel in actor Raul Julia's eye burst, leading the production to film around Julia until he recovered. And then Sonnenfeld's wife became sick, halting production entirely.
Yeah. And it's just like, So in her 2014 memoir, Watch Me, which I didn't know existed, Anjelica Huston described the filming of the Addams Family as long and arduous, right? So it was decided that the character of Morticia should have eyes which slanted upwards and at the sides. Like the effect was achieved by attaching an elastic strap to the back of Huston's head via fabric tags glued to her temples, and a second strap was added to balance the appearance of the lower part of the face with the upper, right? So the bands caused extended discomfort to Huston, and unless she removed them at lunchtime, she'd suffer severe headaches and rashes later in the day.
God.
Removing the bands for a break entailed hours of extra work in both removing and then reapplying the makeup and wig. So on top of this, the bands would snap at the slightest turn of Huston's head, causing yet more grueling repair time. And eventually, she just learned to pivot and turn on her feet without moving her upper head or body, right? Also, she had to wear a metal corset, so she couldn't really lay down or sit or take breaks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. According to Anjelica Huston, actress Judith Molina's way of enduring being embedded in latex for over 12 hours a day was to smoke endless series of joints in her trailer throughout filming.
I mean, that's the way I do it. They should have just given her the fucking Golden Globe, really, for that. So, my God, that sounds awful. I mean, and I always thought, when I picture Anjelica Huston, I just picture her as Morticia, right? So it seems natural, but apparently no. Lord.
On top of all that, Orion's financial difficulties were pretty bad after some duds, even though they'd come out with like Dances with Wolves and a couple of other like hits. Like they had some pretty much duds. They were like trying to break even. And also they were plagued by like this lawsuit from a producer of the original TV series who was saying they were stealing his concepts from him, even though they had already gotten the blessing from the widow of the original, author. So they were just like kind of plagued from beginning to end with issues, right?
Yeah, which led to a bunch of studios sort of like having their finger in this pie, right? Distribution wise.
Yeah, I think Orion kept the distribution overseas, but it was someone else that took it domestically.
Things I did not know as a child watching this movie.
Yeah, and wouldn't have been interested in, right?
So in a 2012 interview, Sonnenfeld stated that he originally intended that it be unclear whether Fester was really an imposter or not, but all the other actors rebelled and chose 10-year-old Christina Ricci to speak on their behalf, and she gave this really impassioned speech that Fester shouldn't be an imposter, so they totally ended up changing the plot to make all the actors happy. And they were right. He said it was a better way to go.
I love that Christina Ricci was their point person for that.
I know. Yeah, fucking Anjelica Huston and Raul Julia, like two accomplished actors. And they're like, you go tell him.
There you go. Okay.
I mean, but how do you say no to Christina Ricci?
Right,
You're like, you're right. We'll rewrite the whole script.
Is that your script or your overbite?
How do you feel about that, though? Would you rather have Fester like be an imposter and then sort of like grow to love the family and choose to be Fester, or would you rather him regain his memory? What's better for you?
Such a weird ending, especially since he already looks like them. He's got the dark circles around his eyes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any sense that he wouldn't be already the long lost brother.
Fester. I know. Because no one looks like that. And so he didn't just luck into it. He lucked into finding Fester.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't make any sense to be ambiguous to me at all.
So the film was further shaped by test screenings, right? So the Mamushka sequence between Gomez and Fester, where they're like dancing to this like Eastern European like thing together. And so apparently that was really significantly longer sequence than the original cut, but was shortened after negative responses from those test audiences.
And I think that's good too, because I feel like it's kind of long already.
That's what I was kind of surprised, because you said that the party sequence was like one of your favorites, and the party sequence has the Mamushka sequence in it.
Yeah, not the dance, right? Like that I can like take or leave. It could have been like several minutes shorter. I just like the other characters and the brief introductions, right? So like Lumpy Addams and like, the Amore twins and that guy playing the fucking snake. I mean, like those are the things that I want to see. I could live without the dance number.
No, totally agree. And it's just funny because Matt was watching it with me, and he said that if there's a few places in the movie that dragged, and the one that he could think of on the top of his head was the Mamushka sequence. He's like, that was far too long, and it's hilarious that that I read that, because it's already apparently like half the length it used to be. So apparently you just need to cut that whole sequence out, man. Like it's like the worst sequence in the whole movie.
I mean, thematically, it doesn't make a lot of sense, too, because we're supposed to believe that, Gordon or Fester does not remember, but suddenly he remembers how to dance the Mamushka, right? And I'm like, okay, so, I mean, the whole thing has, like, plot holes. And just based on that one fucking dance.
I thought that he was remembering, right? That it was jogging his memory.
Oh, like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. You're right.
You could tell that his memory kind of got jogged in a couple places. At least that's what I had thought when I was watching it again this time. And it's been a while. It's been like 10 or 15 years at least since I've seen this movie.
Oh God, for sure.
And I watched the sequel much more often, I would say. But like I feel like this director really wanted, I feel like Sonnenfeld really wanted a dance sequence, and he got that in the next movie too, which is it's actually one of my favorite sequences in the whole movie, is the dance scene in the next movie.
Cannot remember.
Oh my God.
So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think I've seen it as many times as you have. So yeah. But speaking of dancing and music, I mean, what do you have to say about Mark Shaman? You are the resident film score expert, and I've never heard this man's name before, but apparently he's been nominated.
Really, me either. But he's done all these romantic comedies and other things that are totally gay, right? So Beaches, right? And When Harry Met Sally, Ooh. Misery. He was the cinematographer on, or the director actually was the cinematographer on Misery. Yeah, and he also did the music for City Slickers, right? And this is all movies he did before this one, right? And afterwards he did For the Boys, right? Sister Act, Sleepless in Seattle, In and Out, South Park. He wrote the Blame Canada song, apparently, like the music for it.
There's his Oscar nomination.
Another one, honestly. Good. And then Hairspray, right? And then Mary Poppins Returns just recently. Yeah,
I mean, I kind of like the score in this movie. It was noticeable to me. Like, it had some really good touches of gothic romance, right? And I just never really noticed it before.
No, it's an iconic theme, really. And of course, this is the theme from like the original TV show, right? But it was worked into the score that's like a freaking tapestry, man. Like it's got like 20s jazz and flapper music in there. There's like melodrama romance in there. There's South American and Eastern European influences. There's a lot of big band in there. Like I always try and listen to the soundtrack while I'm making the notes and doing my research for a film. And I was listening to this and I was just like, holy shit, this is way more complex and interesting than I noticed in the movie because it's so many, you know, vignettes and fast cuts and things like that. But if you listen to the score, like it's really good. Like it's really, really well done. And so I would highly recommend everyone to go out and listen to this. I have not yet compared it to Addams Family Values score, but I remember loving the music for that one too. So
I think I want to, just because I mean, it's kind of rare that I'll notice and like really enjoy a score, and I really enjoyed this one, and mostly because, you know, you kind of expect it to be the Addams Family theme song like over and over again in the movie, and there's not a whole lot of it really, but
no,
or at least not that I picked up on.
There's a great like Wednesday Addams theme, like with Pugsley, that's just kind of dark and spooky and playful, and then there's another like romance theme for Morticia and Gomez, and there's a lot of other like little like leitmotifs going on throughout the score that are not the main Addams Family theme that you would remember, you know, and so it's just a really good score.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and listen to that for sure.
So I've got some fun facts for you.
Great. I always love the fun facts, and I'm sure after that whole corset and like face makeup thing, there's got to be some great ones.
So as a joke, producer Scott Rudin let it be known to Sonnenfeld that he wasn't his first choice by putting a different director's name on the back of the director's chair every morning on set. So some of the names that replaced Sonnenfeld's were Joe Dante, Terry Gilliam, David Lynch, and Rudin's first choice, Tim Burton.
He wanted David Lynch to make this movie?
It's part of the joke.
Oh, I would love to see how that would turn out, though. I mean, really, good Lord.
So did you notice black marks on the front of the house? Like during the no. Yeah, I did. I kept noticing, like, what is the black like splatters all over the front of the house? Like, is that part of the set decoration? And apparently, I didn't realize until later that was supposed to be the splash of tar from the opening gag because it's visible the rest of the movie.
Was that why you said tar? Apparently, when we were talking about it
exactly.
Earlier? Okay, that's funny. Now I need to watch it again.
So apparently Sir Anthony Hopkins turned down the role of Uncle Fester.
Oh, I
could see it.
I mean, maybe, but I think I like Christopher Lloyd better.
And apparently Cher wanted to play the role of Morticia, and Olivia Hussey was briefly considered for the role, along with Kim Basinger.
I mean, the first two I could totally see, really.
Yeah,
but
I could totally see Olivia Hussey doing that.
Yes.
Kim Basinger was, I don't know. I can't see it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that if out of those three, aside from Anjelica Huston, I would go with Cher. But I don't know that she could deliver the lines right. You know what I mean? I can just imagine. She'd be like, whatever, are you unhappy, darling? Oh, yes. Oh. Completely. Oh, completely. I can't do a Cher.
Lick her lips, yeah. And for those of you who don't remember, Olivia Hussey, of course, is from Black Christmas, and Kim Basinger had just starred in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, right?
Oh, so, that's right. Vicky Vale.
Meanwhile, Judith Molina, who played Grandmama, I just found out by just going to her wiki, just like randomly, that she was married to Julian Beck, right? So Julian Beck played the preacher from Poltergeist 2. That was her husband. And apparently they had a non-monogamous relationship because he was bisexual and they both had male partners on the side.
What? Reverend Kane?
Fuck the Babadook. Reverend Kane is our new horror mascot.
For real. Why did we rally around him? The Babadook's not a pride icon. Reverend Kane, forever. Oh my God. The next time we go to Dallas Pride, we're going to make Reverend Kane signs and maybe dress up like
For real. I blew my mind that she was married to him. And then it like went further by describing the nature of their marriage. And then that they both had male partners on the side. I was just like, holy shit.
See, this is why I'd never go into like Wikipedia, like K-holes, right? I need to do that more often. You start clicking some of those Wikipedia links because you learn really important information like this.
For my final fun fact, after the movie premiered, children would frequently recognize Raul Julia as Gomez Addams out in public, which according to him always brought a smile to his face, right? So Raul Julia stated that Gomez Addams was by far his favorite role he'd ever played, and his family said that recognition was especially meaningful to him in the final months of his life because he loved performing for children and making them happy wherever the opportunity presented itself.
Oh, that's really sweet.
I remember it was like this big was a big deal when he died, because he died so young
Yeah.
of a heart attack right after Addams Family Values, I think, right? Like a year or so. And it was really, really sad. And because I feel like the franchise was actually going to go further and go on, right? But they weren't going to do it without Raul Julia, because he was so well adored by everyone who made those movies, you know? And I loved this little tidbit, right? That he loved to be recognized, that it was one of his favorite roles, and that he absolutely loved to do it in the final months of his life, because he loved to put smiles on the faces of children.
And he really was a gifted actor too. And so, I mean, like, the fact that this was his favorite role is, I don't know, it speaks quite like volumes about who he is, who he was, right? And so I love that. That's a really sweet, fun fact to end on. Good, I enjoyed those. And now all I can see is like Anthony Hopkins playing Fester, like talking about fava beans and like liquor shit.
And Cher as Morticia.
So I know. What the fuck movie is that? Jesus Christ, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight now.
And Olivia Hussey.
I just like to say her name. But we have some questions to ask about the Addams Family, like we do about every movie we cover here on the Film Flamers. And we're going to start with, is the Addams Family a horror movie?
I'm going to say probably not. Like, this is my first time. Like, I mean, it deals with all those macabre things, but it's really just like a dark comedy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of the only thing that's horror about it is the window dressing, right? Like the props and the jokes, right? So I'm going to say that it's a nice, like, maybe palate cleanser for a hardcore horror fan or something, if they don't want to ever dip into normalcy. But I mean, this is not really a horror movie.
Yeah, I am right there with you on this. And I mean, I know that I have said, you know, been on like, my toe has been on the line about calling things horror, not horror, but this is definitely, to me, not a horror movie. It's just a really dark, you know, supernatural comedy kind of. So the fact that it won, you know, best horror movie of the year at that Oscar style horror show is really surprising to me, given the kind of movies that came out around the same time, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, like The People Under the Stairs, right? I mean, like, this is definitely, to me, not a horror. It's just dark. Yeah,
It's got horror characters. It's playing with genres, which is the point, right? It's putting everything from a horror movie, but into a comedy.
These are things that, you know, kids who like horror movies or like dark things, who can't really watch R-rated movies, this is what they get to watch when they grab onto, right? So I think that we all look back and we're like, yeah, this is gateway horror for sure. Even the Addams Family TV show is a good gateway horror for people who like things that are dark.
Yeah, Beetlejuice, gateway horror.
Exactly.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
It's all gateway horror.
I mean, I love them all, but this, I would call those horror way before I'd call this one horror.
Yeah, even so, yeah.
So, with that being said, were you scared while watching the Addams Family?
Fucking not. No. I had a smile on my face the whole movie.
Yeah. I mean, I oftentimes have a smile on my face while watching horror movies, but I wasn't scared. We don't have to talk about that for sure. Silly question. Okay.
Did you cry?
I did. In fact, 2 times.
Really?
Cried to watch. Yeah. And I had 1 beer watching this movie. I wasn't even drunk. I cried because I was sober and it touched me, you know, in such a place.
Where did it touch you?
Show me on the doll. I cried at the end, obviously. And then I cried when, I can't even remember, but probably during the fucking Mamushka. As much as I hated that segment, right? Like, they were so much like brotherly love or something. I was just verklempt. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So out of 5 stars, what would you rate the Addams Family?
You know, I was going in knowing that I love Addams Family Values, and that this one was just kind of like the intro movie to that, and that I always returned to the sequel before this one. And I hadn't seen this one probably in 15 years at least. And so I was just like, it's overshadowed by its sequel, but damn, this is so much better than I remembered, right? And so I just thought, okay, this is a 3-star movie compared to like a 4 or 5-star. But no, I really liked it. So I gave it a 4. I considered it a low 4. But I gave it a solid 4 because I just enjoyed the shit out of it. I enjoyed myself. There's some iconic characters in this. There's wonderful casting, wonderful music. You know, it's a good time all the way through. So you know what? At the end of the day, I have to judge by how I felt during and after the movie, and I had to give it a 4.
I gave it 3.5 stars, which is kind of close to your 4. I originally, after I watched it, gave it 3 stars. But I was thinking about it this morning, and I mean, the casting really is very inspired, and the acting is so phenomenal. I bumped it up that half a point. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this movie probably since like 1993. So a good, 20 years almost.
Yeah.
No, God, more than that, maybe.
Really?
Math. So yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. I mean, I didn't remember every single part of this movie. I was surprised by parts of it. I didn't laugh very much, which
Really?
sort of like, yeah, it gave me, it's where my low star rating came from. I sort of chuckled a little bit, but I didn't like guffaw with laughter, sort of like I remember doing watching Addams Family Values, like you said. So I think that I've seen that one more times than this original, but even Addams Family Values, I haven't seen that many times. So yeah, it's all kind of new to me at this point again.
Wow. Okay.
So finally, who's the hottest guy in the Addams Family?
Raul Julia.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
There's no one else. Literally.
yeah. There really isn't. But even just from a character standpoint, I mean, like, you're right earlier when you said it was relationship goals, because it really is, right? I mean, he's a doting husband and father, and he's very attentive to his wife, and I mean, it's just kind of sexy to me. So,
Yeah. Every scene with him and Morticia, I'm just like, yeah, relationship goals. They're standing out looking at the stormy weather and they're like, it's horrible outside. And she goes, yes. It's like they just understand. They just get each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I love it. But I think that just about wraps up our conversation on the Addams Family. But stay tuned next week because we're going to continue and talk about Addams Family values.
That's right.
We'd like to know your thoughts on this original version, though, and our conversation on it. So you can find us on social media at The Film Flamers on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and let us know what you think.
Or you can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com or call our hotline at 972-666-7733. Is that your voicemail or your overbite?
Is it made from real voicemails? If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review, a little snippet of why you like us, and we will read that on our next Shooting the Flames episode. And also, if you can't get enough of us, we have a Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers to find all of our bonus content and get our episodes early sometimes. You can do that for as little as $2, and we'll also read your name on Shooting the Flames.
That's right. And over on Patreon this month, we're covering Deadpool 1 and 2.
I'm looking forward to this. I have not seen these movies at all, so...
More dark comedy and buckets of gore, just for you.
Oh, there's buckets of gore?
Well, I don't know buckets. There's just some nasty shit goes on, we'll say that.
Oh, good. I'm super excited. Well, until next week, when we talk about some of these values, let's go off, Chris, and have some sweet dreams. I was going to say something like ookie dreams, but I think I've said ookie too many times already in this recording.
Yeah. Ookie spooky. Okay.